Deborah Higgins, we're delighted to have you here because we're celebrating 50 years since the death of C.S. Lewis. Celebration's not the right word, but his life, his writings, his work is something to be celebrated, and you work very closely in his environment. You live in the house where he lived.
Yes, I do. I live in the Kilns, it's called, and we have a study center in the home, and so we promote Lewis, kind of the scholarship that he promoted. So kind of a living legacy to C.S. Lewis in a sense. But he lived in that home from 1930 and he died in the home in 1963.
Now the question is, for someone like yourself, you were a professor at Southern Adventist University.
Yes.
Your speciality is in literature, but you're also a committed Adventist Christian.
Yes.
What's the appeal of C.S. Lewis to you? What made you jump across the Atlantic to work in his house?
I think there's several things that actually made me jump across the Atlantic. One is my area of study, which is medieval and Renaissance literature. So, which is what Lewis, that was his specialty area. Most people don't know that. They know him by his fantasy literature. But that he was a medievalist. And so I have actually used his works in the classroom and enjoy his works there as well. But I came to know Lewis through Mere Christianity, and that was when I was an undergraduate at Columbia Union College, which is now Washington Adventist University. And I was just so excited by the ideas that he had and the simplicity. What he did when he says Mere Christianity, he was taking it down, shredding away all of the denominations in the world, shredding away everything and looking purely at Jesus Christ. And it was exciting and refreshing. And I think that's what a lot of people I see that come to our house on tours, because we have thousands that come through on tours now. That's what they enjoy, is that shredding away of everything else and the focus on Jesus Christ.
Do you think it's his apologetics from a book like Mere Christianity that is the real legacy that he leaves behind him?
Wow. His legacy, I see it in several different angles. The books most people read, when they come through, they will either say it was Mere Christianity, The Chronicles of Narnia, or Screwtape Letters. And all three are very powerful representations of the gospel, and especially for the Chronicles of Narnia, of living the Christian life. And in fact, the others are as well. How do you live the Christian life? How does faith work? What is faith? I mean, he answers that in Prince Caspian. What is it like to not see God and yet know that you should be doing something that he's requesting you to do? And I think he helps to answer those questions. And they're kind of questions that they're not concrete, and yet he somehow brings this concreteness to them, and this logic that helps us to understand, I think, some of the things that seem to us a little bit out there that we can't grasp in our hands.
Is part of his legacy also that in a book like Mere Christianity, he is being apologetic, he is defending Christianity and the center of Christianity, partly from his experience, his own Christian journey from atheism to faith, but also in other books like the Chronicles of Narnia, like the Screwtape Letters maybe, he's taking more of a fantasy attitude and a storytelling attitude, so somebody with no faith or very simple faith can look at it and say, oh, okay, there is something there for me.
Right. And I think you could actually read the books and not know that they were Christian if you came at them and were not a Christian. If you had any inkling of what Christianity was about, then definitely you would see it. And I think that was what he called stealing past the watchful dragons. And he wanted to not just steal past the dragons that are where people don't know Christ and maybe see him in a different way, but those who have been turned off, those who have been raised in a Christian background, and for instance, kids that have gone to school, and I saw this especially in my teaching. I've taught for 22 years in Adventist schools, and You see a lot of students, by the time they get up to college, they're sick of it. They don't want to hear anymore because they've had it in the classroom. I've heard this over and I've been tested on Jesus Christ. So he's stealing past those watchful dragons. They're watching, and all of a sudden he flips it and says, look at it in a different way. What if there's another world where someone came and, and the world fell, and someone came and rescued it? And there's a lot of similarities. It's not allegory, but it's what he calls supposal. And I think it's just brings a freshness. And I have taught a Lewis class at Southern I taught for 17 years, I believe, C.S. Lewis. So yes.
Looking back, what's his legacy for us as Adventists, for Christians in general? What's the legacy? What should we be looking at?
I think I often said in that class, I could probably get away without teaching at all if I had wanted to, because the books teach. The books, when the students read the books, you see them light up. They come to Christianity afresh. And I keep going back to that. But to me, that was so important in ministry, what I call ministry and teaching, which is, I feel, what I feel my ministry, what teaching is for me. But I think his legacy is not just in it showing us afresh, but it's also teaching us when you don't even know you're being taught. You're learning all these things, and he's such a gifted writer, and he writes from the heart. There's no pretension, so you don't come at it thinking, oh, I better put the brakes on and be careful of what he's going to say. You open the doors because he's being so real with you about his own relationship with Christ, and he doesn't hide anything. He doesn't hide anything, and I think that's very important.
Deborah, you've made me go back to the bookshelf. I'll be pulling those books off and looking through them again.
That's
Thank
wonderful.
you very much for talking to us.
Okay, thank you.